is 6:03, so we'll call the work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, October 24th, 2022 to order. We have everybody present. So we'll start with a quick review of the council agenda. We've got the invocation by Chaplain Elizabeth Hendrick. Isn't she the chaplain for the police department?
She is.
Yeah. The pledge, anyone?
Hello.
Hey Kirk, we've got you on speaker. We'll get to the meeting in just a minute.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, SYC folks, yeah.
What was her name, Christy?
Winta, W-I-N-T-A, M-O-M-A-M-O, Winta Mamo, and Nargis, N-A-R-J-I-S-E, Coco, K-O-K-O.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Then we've got the minutes. The youth commission's going to give us a report, and we have just the second reading on the GMEBS program. Any questions? Nope.
You remember that's moving the group health to GMA.
Yeah.
Why do we have to do that as an ordinance?
I don't know.
Is that what they require?
GMA requires it.
I thought it was a Chuck thing.
No.
Chuck don't care
For
about
once, you're
stuff.
off the hook.
All right. Any correspondence?
No, ma'am.
Chuck, city attorney's report.
I think what we'll do, we do have a couple things, but I think we can just discuss those when we discuss the development stuff later on.
Okay.
So let's just walk that to that.
All right. So we'll move to the discussion items, the discussion on the budget for the hall.
We, I guess, shortly after the last meeting, we sent out a project development budget version 3. Does everybody have that? I've got some extra copies here.
Is it in this packet?
No, it came in an email form. As soon as we got it, we sent it out.
Okay, well, I saw the email, but I didn't bring a copy of it.
Okay.
Anybody else want one?
I can pull mine up. Go ahead, Chris.
This is something that that Kirk put together, and Kirk has joined us online to listen in. You're there, Kirk, right?
I'm here, yeah. Good
All
evening,
right.
everybody.
Kirk and I guess with Shannon put this this really good overview together, which basically traces where we were and where we have come to with the increase in the budget due to a lot of extenuating circumstances that we did not have control over, and what Kirk and Shannon have done since putting this together. And I'm sorry, I've got a cold. You may not be able to. I'm losing my voice in a little while, but. What they have done since then is put together the revised lease numbers. And I've put in front of you tonight a just received email from Shannon Dixon regarding where we stand with Jamal on those revised lease numbers. And even though he has not signed the lease proposal, he is definitely, Kirk, it sounds like he's been very positive about it. Like in Shannon's email, it says, I went through all of the details with him last week and he indicated he was on board with the deal terms. He's been traveling a lot, he's out, he is calling me when he lands, but I think we are probably good. That's from Shannon. And Kirk, I would imagine you are standing with Shannon and her belief that we're probably pretty solid with these numbers, the revised lease numbers, correct?
Yes, we stated we are hopeful that Jamal signs this letter of intent as is. That's what we're hopeful of, correct? As early as this week, if not tomorrow.
Okay.
And they're consistent with the numbers in the budget, correct? And also this includes increase in percentage rent for the event space, staying with the same per square foot rent on the new size of the building. So there's some other revenue things in the letter of intent that are positive that are not indicative in the budget because the budget didn't include that.
The key things to me from the revised lease are the tenant allowance for the first floor. It goes up, obviously, from where we were, but it goes down from 225 to 200. The second floor is a per square foot build out that we'll be responsible for. And Kirk has estimated that at 225. I'm hoping that we could do better than that, but that's what Kirk and Shannon put in this number. They're in the business all the time. I think, you know, they're very realistic with that number. And what occurs, and you have to remember everything below that total landlord hard costs, the the soft costs, the contingency, the construction management fee, the development fee. I have that budgeted elsewhere. That is in another part of the trade center budget, under fees and dues and tap fees. So that money really is taken care of in another part of the budget. What we need your input on is everything above that, the total landlord hard costs, and basically the new deal that we're talking about with Jamal. If you will look at what Shannon sent today. This letter here, if we go to the first page of the lease proposal summary, I want to hit some of the high points here. If Jamal signs this, he agrees to the full size of the building now, 18,655 square feet. First floor, 11,749. Second floor, 6,906. And he also agrees that his $1 million goes towards all of that. The first and second floor will be responsible for the second floor. Moving down, the guarantor, Jamal Wilson, shall personally guarantee first 10 years of the term. The initial term of the lease is 15 years. Going to the next page. This is the new lease number that he will be paying. Year 1 through 5, $411, $343. 6 through 10, $431, $863. 11, 15, $453, $316. The increase in his lease cost is a little over $600,000 over that period of time.
Over 15 years?
Yes. 611, 460 to be exact.
And is this a higher amount of rent per
It is the same amount of rent, just more square footage,
Okay.
total square footage. So that means he's renting out and operating the second floor. Event space tenant shall pay to the landlord 10% of all gross proceeds from use of the event space. Gross proceeds. I mean, I've operated a trade center before, and to get a gross number is very good. That's a positive thing. 10% of the gross proceeds from use of the event space.
Was that in the original? That was not.
It was 5%.
5%. Common area additional charge. Don't forget, he will also be paying CAM, the management fee, and offsetting some of our insurance costs, in addition to his lease. He'll be putting up 2 types of deposits. The commitment deposit, which will be credited towards his monthly rent, and then a security deposit that we will hold. Going to the next page. Tenant improvement allowance. That's the $200 per square foot for the first floor, and how it's to be paid. Furnishings, fixtures, and equipment, FF&E for the entire premises, shall be provided by the tenant is at his expense. First and second floor, FF&E. So those are all, I think, very positive movement on Jamal's part. And I know I was glad to get a positive report on where he stands, even though he has not officially accepted these terms. So I think that kind of sets the stage for your discussion and any questions that you might have.
Explain to me the tenant allowance, first and second floor. I'm not.
The first floor, that $200 per square foot is what we would pay for a tenant allowance.
Okay.
We pay him $200 a square foot to build out. Remember, we're talking about I know you don't want to hear it anymore, but it's a cold gray shell is what we're going to build for the 4799 up here.
Okay.
And that 200 allowance, he puts, who knows how much he puts with it to build out his first floor. The 225.
We're asking him to spend $1 million first before we go into our 200, or it's a max of 200. So it is, he spends $1 million first on the first floor, and then we start putting in money up to 200. We have a max.
You mean
but it is up to.
No,
His first $1 million is spent on the first floor.
Which is $2.3 million.
Okay.
What's that now?
The way it was being phrased is he has to put up his million before we get into our 200, but it's actually $2.3 million.
Correct. 2,350.
Right. I want to make sure we're looking at things
Okay.
apples to apples.
Absolutely. The second number there, Dave, 225 is the estimate build out for the second floor that we'll be responsible for. Building out the second floor.
I thought we.
He'll do the FF&E, but
Yeah, but I thought we were just gonna do a minimum for openers on the second floor, because it doesn't need to be as
No.
extensive as the first floor.
No,
No.
well, no, what we were talking about doing, when we talked with Snellville, what we're talking about is, it used, in the old version, Jamal was gonna finish, his money was gonna cover, his tenant improvement was gonna cover the first floor and the second floor. He was gonna build out the second floor. Then we came back and said, all right, if we got Smith built, at the time they build the building, to go ahead and finish off the second floor at our cost, then that would, one, they're already out there and mobilized. It'd be a little bit cheaper to have that than to have another contractor come in and finish off that second floor. We get it all done when the building's done. And then we just take care of that to where but then he's not getting any kind of allowance then for the second floor. It's all our
And
cost.
where are we with the elevator and the food elevator? Are we at
That's-
dumbwaiter?
Yeah, and all the second floor and the elevator, we're going to interact with Jamal on behalf of the city and make the best decision for the project to limit an elevator possibly. He's already knows that he's probably fine with that, he said, and work with him on what the finishes could be upstairs and make a wise recommendation to the city to value engineer that and use the contractor that's doing the base building, which will be a savings in costs and general fees and conditions and so forth.
Okay.
if you look at note number 1, Kirk and
Yeah.
team to VE,
Right.
plus or minus 5. And, there's the roller shade up there that is going to be part of the discussion also. So,
Yeah, and
We're off of 2 elevators, right?
yes.
Correct, and we're thinking we can go down to 1 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has to be built out and finished
Yeah, that makes
before
sense.
going into operation.
Yeah.
but then that way too, we haven't gotten any value engineering back from Smithville yet, or the architect, placemaker.
No. Kirk, you don't have any good numbers on that yet.
No, I mean, we really didn't push hard, but we have a list of ideas between the architect, between Cass's guys, Roger. Now we'll do the same thing on the interiors. Again, we'll be working on 2 things, the base building and reducing those costs, and the interiors of the second floor, getting the best number possible up there on that. So it'll be twofold what we're trying to do to reduce the cost. And both Mid-City, Roger, Casta, Jim, and me and the architects will be working on that. If we go down this path, which I do recommend and thought was a good suggestion when we met a while back to get the base building contractor to do this work and compartmentalize Jamal to the first floor to simplify the discussion, put his million all down there first. And but he's also doing FF&E for both floors, so.
Right.
Okay.
Other questions?
I mean, just in general, the soft costs really haven't gone up tremendously, even from the initial budget. So the $2,168,000 increase in hard costs, the budgeted amount, I mean, our job is to drive that down, you know, several $100,000 between the second floor and the base building. I mean, I'm not, just drive it down. We'll be able to take several $100,000 off that number. I'm very confident of that. Don't know how far we'll go, but we will be able to.
Okay.
Who will be the city's person doing oversight to make sure that our money is being, who's going to be the point person for this?
So we can definitely work with a representative, but we've been hired to be that construction manager. And to tell you that Roger and Jim do that day in and day out for our companies, I mean, this is an understatement. So we, obviously love to have a way to communicate with you weekly, daily. You could have a representative, but that we've actually been hired by you. That's why we're getting paid a fee to drive that, to get lien waivers and check on the tenant build out and not fund money until it's finished. I mean, we do that all the time. It's a big component of our business to do that effectively.
Right, and I understand that, but we're looking at an increase of roughly $2,100,000 of city funds over what we had projected 2 years ago. And I just want to make sure that nobody is, it is public money, and we just need to make sure that there's proper oversight.
No, I understand, and I'm not saying that, but any other layer you want from the city or anybody else would be welcome. I mean, like you use layering. I mean, I'm just saying, we are, part of our job is to do certainly a big component of that, but we certainly wouldn't object, obviously, to any other layer of oversight that you wanted to consider.
Okay.
Yeah, we've worked with Roger for almost 2 years on this project, and we talk several times a week. Any monthly drawdown will be reviewed by everybody.
Okay.
And
well, I just don't want to see Russian crystal chandeliers being put in at $200,000 a piece, because I would be hard pressed to explain that to anyone.
So before they start construction, we'll have an approval of the interiors too. So we'll be presenting those specs to you, and it'll be eyes wide open before anything's built on what the budget is and the level of improvement. So
yeah, and I'm not saying I want someone to be looking over the shoulder as far as the design and what is selected and that sort of stuff. I just need to make sure that we have the proper oversight in expending city funds.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Kurt, this is Chuck. Did we jettison, I think it's a little thing, but just something we had added was the use of the second floor for city functions. Did we jettison that?
Oh, I think that's still in the lease. No, I don't think that's a problem. No,
Okay.
we can absolutely cut this. It just
You
missed
wanted
in this
four.
letter of temp.
Yeah, I mean, it's
4
not a
events a
huge
year.
deal, and I get, but I just wasn't sure if that was still part of it or not.
Yeah, no problem. That is absolutely staying in there. And I'll make sure.
Cool.
I'll get that added to this just to go ahead and do it. Are you there, Butch? I just felt like I lost you maybe.
No,
We're just being quiet and staring at each other.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
A lot of staring around in the room.
Yeah.
So then this increase, Butch, the 2.1 million, this is covered in the budget that we went over at the last meeting, I think. We've got the funds.
You have a surplus to utilize if you so choose. It's not covered in the current budget. You haven't, when you make a decision, we'll put it in there.
Okay. So
But in the
expenditures will go up.
yeah, in the the current budget, where we stood on 10-10, we had a, we were in the black, $3.566 million.
Don't tell them that, they'll probably spend.
Yeah.
What's that?
You didn't hear that, Kurt.
It's being spent. It's being spent.
No, I appreciate that. You guys have known me for years. This money is like my money, I promise you.
Yeah.
And I will work real hard to get that number down.
I'm not being mistaken, but I
every-
thought the original footprint was larger than 11,749,
It was.
and I just want to make sure that we don't get into a situation where a year down the road, he says this isn't big enough. I mean, he's agreed that that's adequate for what he's doing, Jamal being the he.
That's coming from Jamal.
Okay, that's fine.
That it was
Yeah, I
based
mean, we
on his
actually-
design. Remember the footprint that we
Yeah.
looked at, and then we did the exterior.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause
What areas?
And really very similar, I was down in Orlando, and some of you that visit there amazingly have similar freestanding 2 stories, and so it was really working very well. But I do believe the square footage is completely adequate for Jamal. And
Okay.
the outdoor space will be used and all the other attributes of the design.
common area maintenance would be, stuff like, cleaning up the grounds around
Yeah,
the
okay.
area, tenant and landlord things, what else would be?
Yeah, so the common,
Cam,
sorry to interrupt you.
no, go ahead, just explain what
Yeah, so
else would be involved.
the lease is intended to be what's called a triple net lease in the leasing real estate world. So it's meant to be that you do get your rent, but you don't also incur operating costs. So yes, landscaping, cleaning, insurance. I mean, there's not taxes here because it's owned by the city, but typically that would even be passed through. So it's meant to be, in addition to rent, the tenant covers your expenses of the maintaining that property. So that's the general statement of those fees. So even that parcel will have a contribution to the overall CAM for the project. That when we did the master declaration, but you'll remember we have all the parcels contributing. So that will be one of its expenses. So, but the tenant ultimately reimburse that. So the landlord's profiting from the rent before other maybe debt or whatever, but you don't have. But that's the intent of it, and that's how it's written. That's very common in the retail world. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it would not include the, his exterior area that is used for, eating, dining, entertainment.
No, the maintenance of that would be he would clean that, or
Yeah,
if we cleaned it,
that's-
we get reimbursed. Now he's responsible for his exclusive areas,
Okay.
outdoor and indoor.
So it'd be the exterior of the building, the perimeter of the building, the sidewalks, the landscape, other than his
Dining area.
his
Yeah.
dining. And,
Yeah, probably not the sidewalk on Street B
Well,
or the
yeah.
side. Yeah, but the stuff that's what I would say he controls, like his back patio, his upstairs patios. Yeah, the stuff that's within his kind of confines. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a fine line there in a public sidewalk that abuts the building, to be honest with you, but it's just there's a little bit of a gray area there.
The outdoor.
But typically, we're going to clean Street B kind of consistently, right? The streetscape that we put in, the trees we put in,
right.
But then there is a common area maintenance of even that each parcel contributes to. So it's kind of recaptured in a way, if that makes sense.
And
As soon as he signs this lease, then he'll be paying this commitment deposit, correct? Is that?
Well, this
Correct, the
isn't,
2 deposits.
yeah, and this isn't the
isn't the
actual
lease.
lease,
This is the summary of it.
this is the letter of intent
Okay.
that he would be in agreement to these updates.
So, okay.
And we have a
this
lease
letter of
that's been
intent
fairly
he'll
fully
be signing
negotiated, so
on.
we're just keep trading out these terms on a lease that we've made a lot of progress on. So we won't be starting from scratch, but we'll just be changing these terms.
Right.
Okay.
So what does our timeline look like if assuming the council gives approval, what's our timeline at this point?
I think that if he could get approval and he could sign the LOI, let's just say this week, to be optimistic and hopeful and realistic as well, because he should be ready to go. Then I think we could turn around a lease draft within a few weeks, Chuck, and we could get together and look at the draft we had, and then he would review it. I would think within a month we could have a signed lease based upon the history we have with working with Jamal and where we are today, and the way we've kind of simplified this for him. or his TI allowances and so forth, and then we would go to work on the base building, and then we would get with him immediately on kind of what his thoughts were for the upstairs finishes, and how to think about prudent dollars spent up there, and work on that. Maybe take an elevator out like we talked about, but we try to move simultaneously on all these fronts in an effort to start the building.
Is there any way to go ahead and get the base building started before we wait a month for a lease to get negotiated and signed? The exterior base building really isn't changing other than the elevator plus or minus.
I think we certainly should be moving in that direction, like permitting and all that, as if we're starting, Todd, and take advantage of that time.
Okay.
And we need to, I would say in that meantime too, instead of waiting until the lease is signed, we need to get the value engineering, what ideas do we have to reduce some costs in the building for our side of things. Do that now so that we can, and I'd like to have it in a list of things, modifications to the building, to what we've all seen, and then anything else that we were planning on doing interior-wise, that we have a list of what the changes are so that everybody's just in agreement and understanding of.
Yeah. We'll go through a thorough list of all the possible VEs, and we'll put some price tags next to it. Maybe we make a recommendations of ones, but we'll make you well aware of all of them, and then we'll make some quick decisions. Yes, I would think that would start immediately as well upon a signed LOI.
Okay.
And the contractor, Snellville, seemed very willing to participate on that and work with us. And they were even, if we can give them some notes, even give us a 2-week price on the event space, just to even give us another ballpark here as we move forward and really try to make that number come down.
In talking with Snellville, they've done a lot of interior build-outs of commercial properties, so they've got a really good working knowledge of good finishes and things that'll look good without hopefully breaking the bank there.
Kirk, do you think?
I really will suggest to Jamal that he uses them. I mean, I just,
yes,
in the simplicity of things, the savings of money and the time components, there's just so many reasons that I'll really have to ask him, like, if there's some strong reason that he will object. But I'm just really going to let him know that we really think that's a great decision. So,
yeah, because I know he has his own architect for his interior design, but it would sure be nice if we had one contractor on site doing the whole building, making those improvements as well as the shell. Sure,
absolutely.
Would be easier to work with them. And I think they would be, from our meetings with them, I think they would be competitive.
Absolutely, no. And we can get them to see all their sub bids, and we can really get our arms around making sure that that's the right number. So, but feel good about that, exploring that process.
Assuming everything moves on schedule, when would you project this would be done, the building?
I would say the earliest is end of next year, realistically, just with mobilizing and getting started and getting the interior built out. So I would think.
Yeah, end of 23.
End of 23?
Yeah.
End of 20.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to why I think it's important to make sure that we're moving the shell building and the pad construction ahead expeditiously, getting the drawings into planning and development for permits, so we can possibly shave a month of wasted time off that. Because we're going to end up with the structure, and this is a building that we were expecting to be online already. So we want to make sure that it's being given as much thought and effort as some of the surrounding structures that are already well underway.
Yeah, that'll be our priority. You can count on it.
Let's try to set an aggressive date of having the lease and the VE information back that just before Thanksgiving.
Okay, and I'll put a little project schedule together that Roger can have, simultaneous things on one page, the lease and permitting and construction and bidding. And just so you can give you some teeth of us trying to follow something and see where that ends up. Because he has construction timetables from Smithville that are to the week, and we can really kind of.
Yeah, we have a meeting, our next meeting is November the 14th. We need to, I think we can have numbers, I think we can have Smith-Built's contract approved. I'd like to shoot for that day.
We need to move as much forward as quickly as possible.
Amen.
Because it's going to take them a few weeks to mobilize.
Yeah. Yeah, we just need to be working all aspects of it so we don't get, well, we got this done, but now we're waiting on that.
And
No, I understand.
with the holidays.
And we're in a good position. I mean, we have the M1, M2 started, obviously North Side started. We're down to 2 small restaurant buildings, so we're in a great position to really put this at the top. Not that we wouldn't, but we really are in a good position. There's a lot of things going on, but those are with other people's responsibilities to finish things. So myself, over Roger, Jim, and Shannon, this will be a priority to get this going as fast as we can.
Well, we went as fast as Jamal would let us go. But just remember,
We gotta keep that pushing along.
December 1st is my retirement date next year, and I want to have a cold beer in Jamal's bar before I leave.
Okay, there you go. We got a date now, December 1st.
I haven't agreed to that date.
Well, and we may need to move it back into November because he may be on vacation by December 1st.
All right, so what say you, council? Are we okay to proceed under this scenario?
I think so.
Expeditiously.
As
I'm good, as
expeditiously
long
as
as we
possible.
can move it as
Move along.
expeditiously as possible.
And prioritize it.
Expeditious is your new word of the day, Kirk.
Okay,
Don't
okay, I
ask me to
understand
spell
that
it.
word.
Okay.
All right, you got your
Okay, let's
marching
get the
orders.
LOI signed, and I'll be, I know we're working simultaneously on a lot of fronts here, and we will get that going later this week, but I'll get with Shannon in the morning, let her know this conversation. I appreciate your time and consideration of this. I think it's a great decision for the overall project and a beautiful building, so, which was, as we discussed when I first met with you guys, the priority for this project, so.
Matt and I will call
we'll
you
get
in the
done.
morning.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Kirk.
Thanks.
Thank you.
By the way, it was in the AJC yesterday, did y'all?
No.
I didn't see it, but I
They
heard about
had
it.
a big article on food halls in the Atlanta area, and they mentioned
He was down in the bottom.
that,
Yeah.
you saw it then, yeah.
I
But
saw something about that last week. I think that might have been a redo.
The
on Sunday.
problem I heard with it was that he said it would open in 2024.
That's what it said, yeah. I know, and I thought, oh.
That doesn't work.
Lord.
The AJC's never right on anything, why should they go
That,
on?
okay.
Yeah. We've exchanged a lot of voicemails, and that's one of the things that I told him was we got to move that up. 2024 does not cut it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the library, the apartments, the Grove's gonna be
Everything will
open,
be
those
ready to
commercial
go.
buildings will
And
be
there will just
open, and
be
we'd
all
still
that
have construction
construction
going on
going
there.
Right.
So,
Okay. What do we need to do tonight with this?
We
Tonight-
just did it.
I think we
Yeah.
just
That's
did
it. We don't need to.
it's just a nod at this point, yeah. It's, I mean, in the end, it's the DDA that makes the final, signs the lease and does everything. But, so we just needed to make sure that everybody was okay with the parameters that we're talking about now with the increase in the budget. And I mean, the goal is that right now we're looking at what, a $2.1 million increase?
Yeah.
2.168.
That with the value engineering, we could shave $300,500,000 off of this, potentially with cutting some other things. And what we talked with the architect about and the contractor is, what kinds of things did we have on there that could we change out to something different that wouldn't detract or change you know, the major style of the building or the
There's a difference
operations and things.
between mahogany and mahogany looking.
Right,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And, you know, swapping out some things or maybe taking off something and replacing that could maybe be added later, you know, as
This is later
a
enhancement.
later enhancement, yeah. So, you know, but trying to find those easy things that could be added back later that don't cause you to knock down walls and all of that other stuff.
So a lot
So,
of the finish, there's a lot of faux finishes that look, they may only last 3 or 4 years, but at that time you can upgrade. And it saves you a lot of money.
The good thing is, the one thing that Jamal has not talked about is if we do the second floor, he hasn't said, I want it at a certain level. I want this, I want that. You know, he's been open about, he had what was called that, the exhibition kitchen, if you will. And he's, you know, already backed off of that. If we can go with a dumbwaiter instead of that elevator. I mean, I think we'll be, there will be some numbers there. And my goal, instead of that 2,168, I think we can get that number down to, let's see,
Well,
my number is 1,381,200. So, you know,
How'd you come up with
we'll
that
see.
exact number?
We'll see.
the only thing I would say is if that's gonna be an event space, that's gonna be used for weddings and things like that, an elevator would be good to get some of our, we're rapidly becoming more elderly ourselves, but, yeah, you know, Kurt may cut off something even more important than his thumb. So having handicap access up to the second floors.
oh, well, there's gonna be an elevator.
There's an
You
elevator.
have to have that.
There is an elevator.
Oh, okay, so you're
There's
just talking
still an
about.
elevator. He was talking about having two, having
service
one
elevator.
strictly as a service elevator.
Yeah, so that's,
And you could shave that down to a dumbwaiter and save a lot of money.
Or a big box with a pulley.
That's a dumbwaiter.
Yeah,
If it was
I mean,
good enough
I thought
for-
2 elevators was a little bit over the top,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you can use a
for
dumbwaiter for.
7,000 square feet,
Yeah.
that's,
That would be to move food up and down, I assume,
Yeah.
right?
it's good enough in Monticello, it should be good enough here.
You'd have to do something to move food up there, because you didn't wanna, you don't wanna take them food trays up.
No.
Dumb waiters I've
Elevators.
seen in the past have been like roach
oh.
habitat. You know, food gets spilled and.
Okay, now we will move on to, update of ongoing projects.
Well, this was a big part of it, that's for sure. Yeah, I really would encourage you guys to walk down there and see everything that's going on that Hodges and Hicks is doing. They've cleaned out the tree save area. I mean, it looks really, really good.
They
We-
had curbs going in when I was there on the 14th.
What's that?
They had some, actually concrete stuff going in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're pouring concrete in a lot of places. And we're working with them to try to save some money there also. We're, instead of trench drain in places, we're looking at boxes. We're trying to trim some costs. There are
If you
some,
can see that, that's
Yeah.
the, that's looking into the grove.
Okay.
And this is like, they've got, remember, when you come down from the restaurants, you've got that patio and then the curved stairs. So they were pouring the concrete for the curved stairs and that wall, retaining wall along there. So that, and that was, what, 2 weeks ago? So they are moving along, and I don't know if you've seen, but in front of the apartments, that Street A, Snell, is that Thomas Snell?
that's Sawyer.
Sawyer. That's got blacktop on it,
Oh, wow.
Binders on there.
yeah,
Good.
so,
So it's nice to see. The coordination meetings are often and regular. The Thrive space, we had another call with the Thrive folks today. They are millennial and Generation Z to the core. I mean, we don't have a meeting. We have a meetup, and it's with the launch team. It's not with a group. It's the launch team. So anyway, but they have been very successful everywhere they've been. So I'm encouraging them to really push Snellville. We have another call with them on Friday. Thrive Space right-of-way work. OMSHIV should be back in there tomorrow or Wednesday. Their electrical contractor has to do some big digging and put some wire in, but you should start seeing curb and gutter, sidewalk and pedestrian poles going in on Oak and North. So there's a lot going on down there. And once they come in, they're going to be here until they're finished. And so all of their road work should be done. You know, in the apartment area, we're talking about, you know, November 10th or so, and probably December for everything else. December 1st to December 10th. So I hope they bring a lot of people here. They've got a lot of work.
So that's not including the intersection improvements at North and Wisteria then?
No.
That's still
Sorry
in
about
design.
that.
No.
Yeah.
And just backing up to Thrive, I've been told, I haven't verified it yet with Ramon, that Thrive in Duluth is fully leased even before they're opened.
And he's just doing his millennial stuff. Everything is moving
Yeah.
well. Just
I
the
mean,
meetups are the problem.
they
No
are.
problem, they're just,
I mean,
They're going-
today
they're
we
launching.
talked about furnishings. You know, I mean, what they're going to put in the building.
Oh, good, okay.
We sent them, and the layout hasn't changed, but we sent it to them again. The meeting Friday, we're going to have TSW to make sure that, you know, everybody's on the same page design-wise and what we've done. And so it's, you know, they have a process, and the only hang-up may be signage. The county is very clear on what they will allow. There will be a sign on the Wisteria side of the building, and there's probably a little difference of opinion between Thrive and the county on what they want on the front. We may end up with a ground sign in the landscape area. I thought it'd be great to put it fits history and everything, a blade sign, but the county is not going for that. So we'll see where we end up. Matt, don't you think that's probably the one area that we're going to have a little issue?
Is that with the library folks?
That's
Or
with Mark LeBlanc, who is their project manager, and I'm sure he gets input from everybody. So, but you know, maybe Thrive will be fine with that. We'll see. Sidewalk improvements right away and final plans next week. We'll bring Larry back to the next meeting to go over those. We had a great meeting with the county DOT about funding and construction. We had some problems with them doing the above ground work, sidewalk and curb and gutter, and us doing the drainage work. I mean, coordinating our contractor with theirs, it doesn't always work. So we talked to them about, why not just cut us a check? So hopefully that's where we'll be. It'll be a grant of funds. Neighborhood beautification, cleanup, landscaping. The initial meeting last Thursday, I think, went very well. If you already talked to everybody about it?
Yeah, I sent out an email last night, but we're talking about recycling, right?
Yeah.
It went really well. All of your selections of people for the task force were wonderful.
We have one sitting right back there.
Judy's sitting right here. Everybody was very engaged in the discussion, was really listening, was really, you know, thoughts were already flowing. And some great questions. We had Walt Ritter from Waste Management. He's moving into Steve Edwards' role. And we had Rick Jarvis from Latham. And so they were able to provide a lot of good insight on recycling in the industry and the sanitation and what's driving all of the costs. I mean, Solange was there too. You got some good information out of it? Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to this coming Thursday. Butch and Craig will both talk about the city budget, how the enterprise fund works, you know, what revenues we do get from the recycling center, and all of that. So, so far so good. And Rick Jarvis has volunteered. He's going to attend Thursday night as well in case questions come up that he can answer.
Yeah.
So he's super engaged in the process, which is great too.
We still need guidance on the roadway property cleanup. You know, we need to get Shelley Marlott involved and get the right people here. Okay. Zoning category review. Jason's here. I wanted to kind of give you to me, the way I term it, developers are cooling on Rosebud and 78, Snellville Oaks, 84, 78 corner. It could be interest rates, it could be, you know, a lot of things. But Jason, I don't think you've had as many calls and interest lately as you had a few months ago, correct?
Correct.
Package sales referendum, the draft ordinance is available prior to November. We were ready for the robo-text until we got a call from the company, and we asked for phone numbers of voters, people on the voters list in Snellville. And we had the number. We were ready to do it. It was going to cost about $3,500. Well, that number in an email that we got today, what did it do, triple or quadruple? I mean, it was ridiculous. And I told Erica, I said, we're pulling back. We aren't going to be taken advantage of like that. So, you know, we'll try to find another way. But
where are they getting all these numbers from?
You know, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's available on the voter roll.
2.5 times.
Yeah.
Well,
Voter
I mean,
rolls
I-
have
Rebecca
phone
can
numbers.
get it for us.
Yeah, anytime, until November.
I mean, I'm talking about all the additional numbers that made it quadruple.
Oh, just because I thought they could.
Price, right?
That was probably.
Oh, it's a city?
Yeah.
They do value engineering the other way.
Yeah,
It's a Snellville address, it's not in the city limits.
It's like wedding planning. If you need to rent a venue for a birthday party, it's $1,000. If it's for a wedding, it's $10,000. Yeah.
price discrimination.
But you know, internally we thought a text would be better than a call. We have a local elected official who's run, but what do you think, Rebecca? I mean, you know, do you guys, and all you guys who have run for office, I mean, do you do calls? Do you do texts?
I've never had enough money to
If
do
I were
that.
on the receiving end, I'd prefer a text.
I think you would read that rather.
Well, it
When I
just
get a
doesn't
call,
Interrupt me.
I'm gonna
I can
hang
read it
up.
when I want to.
I get like 4 texts a day right now.
Yeah.
Political.
yeah, from Save Georgia.
That's all?
Yeah.
And they often go to the wrong name, because I'm not.
Yeah, I
Chelsea.
get a lot of, I get a lot of Greg's, and then there's another, which Greg I could understand, even though he's not on my bill, but yeah, I get a lot of
I
other
get Karen's.
too.
So
Well,
I would do both, because you gotta split up the people who have the cell phones, the people who have the landlines. Your voters for this municipal are going to be older voters who tend to have landlines, and also appreciate the politeness of a call, if it's not a robocall. Right, but even so, you're not gonna hit them with a text, because they literally they'll only have the landline. But it should be a real small universe, right? On average, your union elections are 1,200 voters, so that seems an outrageous price to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
we're usually about 22,000 voters in an election.
2,200.
2,200.
There's like
And
And we've got,
9,000.
well, we used to have
registered,
12,000 registered. I don't
Yeah.
know how we have.
Yeah.
9 and 12.
We're still there.
somewhere in there.
the way to value engineer that would be to take the voter list from the last municipal election and just send it to those. Because those are
That
people
ends up
who have
being-
Who have
shown the
9,000
motivation.
interest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I've just got a bad taste in my mouth with this guy.
Oh, yeah.
it sounds like it.
Yeah, well, maybe we could check a couple different companies. I
We'll
also
see.
thought about,
See how
and
much time.
I didn't leave you the information, but what if we got just some yard signs printed? 10 or 15 and just stuck them around the city, different
if we
corners.
put 'em in
Some
the right
illegal
way.
signs.
No right of way.
Yeah, we can put them in the right way, that would be awesome.
Some illegal signs that we tell Johnny not to
Little big
touch.
Sweezel, that's awesome, right?
Just,
Yeah.
you know, Snellville package store referendum, vote City Hall.
Well,
Okay.
they certainly could go on city property.
Yeah.
I mean, we can put them in the right of way. if you
I know we can, but
You want liquor?
should we?
Real quick.
wanna. No.
If you want liquor, real quick.
Yeah.
We got a lot of residents right here. Y'all would put them in your yard.
I'm on a
All right,
cul-de-sac.
Matt, we'll check out that tomorrow.
I know, I hardly ever put a political sign in my yard because I'm down in a cul-de-sac. It's kind of
Yeah, that's
wasted.
true. Yeah.
Not a lot of people going by, but, so I mean, that would be very cheap to get
Yeah.
10 or 15 signs made to put out a couple.
And main road.
We can put one up on the bridge, on the signal.
Yeah.
I think we should hire one of those sign spinner guys.
Yeah, there we go.
That would be
Put a
awesome.
couple of those out.
Yeah.
Need a part-time job?
Those aren't legal either.
Well, a few months.
There you go.
What about the big wavy guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inflatable.
Oh, the one that
Put a
weighs.
drink in his hand.
Cause it's really easy to read while it's sitting there reading.
Yes
Most of
or
the
no,
letters
we
that
need
link
to know. Also, on that topic, I had a discussion with someone else who's been in the package store industry for over 40 years. They very adamantly said it should be a freestanding building.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think right now our ordinance, our drafts is allowing in a retail strip.
I don't, I just think
So-
it's too transient there. You never
Well-
know what you're gonna get. I just see,
The only difference is if you get a, what's that, Wine and More, or whatever, the
Right.
wine superstore, those typically go into a,
Into retail
Um,
that
existing.
makes sense, yeah.
yeah, I mean, those are
Like a big, yeah.
Total wine.
yeah.
Total Wine, thank
that's
you.
it.
Total.
Not that I would know.
Nothing to They're a client.
That, because those are designed to be in
A larger space.
a larger space, yeah, that would be hard to do freestanding. We, maybe.
So
if-
are y'all
Wine shop,
okay?
Though already in the tenant space.
Well,
You can
it's-
sell
Right.
just wine.
But do
Right
those
now.
just sell wine?
I don't know, I've
Well,
never
Total
been.
Wine just
They
sells wine.
could
I
have
haven't
options.
either.
They have a couple with
Yeah,
liquor, but
they
they've
do.
used up their.
They sell everything.
Yeah.
Licenses.
Oh, well then, who cares?
I think
So are y'all okay with changing the proposed ordinance to
I always thought it should be freestanding.
freestanding?
I think it, from the traffic,
I mean, I've
Stand.
honestly heard
Circulation.
it from 3 of the 4 people that have been in the industry.
The only reason I was pushing for in the shopping center or strip center is as, it would be a big draw, it'd bring traffic to that shopping center,
Right.
which helps maintain the health of the shopping center, and the shopping centers of that size already have, streetlight access.
Yeah, I just.
And being able to pull a pad in some of our already developed shopping centers may not be feasible.
It's probably more of a landlord-tenant relationship, I would think. So
I mean,
Yeah.
Owns a
I look
very-
at like what's available. Well, we have Bed Bath and Beyond, that's gonna be, but that parking lot is a nightmare as it is. You know, what
Oh,
else,
well,
what else
Well,
is
down that end,
available?
it isn't as much.
I was in there today and it sure
Yeah.
was a mess, but
I
luckily,
hate trying to
not my
make
problem.
that decision, I would rather leave it with both options,
Well,
rather than one exclusive. I
the
just-
quality will be higher if it's a standalone building. I mean, think about, unless you build a
Yeah.
brand new shopping center, where would they go right now where it'd be just as good as it's
yeah,
been built?
that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah,
Where
but
would they
where,
go?
Even in presidential, anywhere is not
Yeah,
gonna
if-
be, those are 20-year-old centers.
where can they build a new building that has a lighted access?
Right,
Well, you could
There's a lot
take
of-
the bank, there's parking lots too, they're cutting out
They
of there
could take
too. That's what needs to happen to those
the
parking lots. They need
old
to be
car
remodeled.
wash and the Zaxby's on 78.
It'll be on.
They could take the Shell
Right.
station on
But
the
if they
corner
can
of
get and
Oak.
invest in the building
Tommy's.
too.
right.
Across- right across
There's
from
enough
Tommy's.
room.
No,
Own the
just
assets.
Tommy's.
Well, they could do
Yes.
that.
Not just rent it, like it's like owning a house
That's
versus
not
big
renting
enough.
one.
For sure.
You know, just makes
It's
the num-
something, keep in consideration. Luckily.
Well, I just be concerned, I mean, that to me is a big item, because if anyone's out there looking now and they're trying to secure space in a retail center.
I think it'd be better if we decided, for their sake, really, so they know what we're
That's true.
expecting.
Well, although I will admit, you know, of course, I haven't ever been in that industry, but I would err on the side of people who have been in the industry, who I've talked to.
The drawback there is they may try to increase the barriers to entering a market
Certainly.
because that
Right.
protects their marketplace, their
Certainly.
market share, so they may not have the best interests.
Yeah, well, it'll be a monopoly after the
Right.
first two anyways, so
Yeah.
you get two good ones.
But-
1.5. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I can tell you, in Dalton, we had 6 package stores. The 3 of them
Did they
were
all know you by name?
connected to small strip centers, and they were afterthoughts. You know, 3 of them were freestanding. They had good circulation in the parking lot, and they were so much nicer than the smaller ones. If you could have if you're gonna let it go in a center, you could have a minimum number of parking spaces, a minimum number of, so make it a big center where there's, you have
Right.
more square
Right,
footage
right.
there.
Well, we've
And
got-
not a rinky-dink strip center
Yeah.
that becomes even worse than it already is now.
For sure.
We've got a minimum 10,000 square feet for the building,
For the building,
right?
but there's nothing in there, I don't think, as far as the size of the development that you're in if you're gonna be attached.
But all of our existing strip centers should be over-parked compared to our new ordinance anyway. so-
They are.
Not unless if they go down in Barron's.
Don't say.
Yeah, right
I
next to
think-
First Watch would be perfect.
I mean,
Oh,
you got
gosh.
just the tenant relationship too, you're asking the landlord to make the improvements, you're going to them, they've got control, most of the guys that are good at it, or the people are probably gonna wanna control it, they'll keep money from the top up. And I'm sure they make money on the building and the asset over time too, just not immediately. It all goes into the cap rate, I would think.
Well, a lot of it too, most of the package stores have no windows that you
Oh,
can
yeah, only
get
flow
into.
windows.
So they're all high.
Yeah.
So if you go into a center, it's gonna be a major reconstruction.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and there's all police officers.
Security
Is
issues. then.
security issues, would it be easier for somebody to go into if it's built out in a strip center, can they go up and over a wall easier, like between?
Cut through a wall.
Yeah,
They can, they probably just break through the door though.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the door is still the door, but
right, but you're gonna notice that a little more than you would, well. I don't care, truthfully. I just, if we're gonna end up with them, I want them to be
I want them
nice.
to be nice.
And
nice.
If we're gonna
accessible.
have them, I want them to be nice, or we'll hear criticism
freestanding.
constantly.
I think we go freestanding.
Yeah, I would like both, but I think
You know what
the
you could do?
majority has spoken.
Uh-oh.
This is down the road, if you ever come off of that 10,000 per person, you could open up some smaller, like tenant-based ones in there that might
I'm
be
gonna kick
just
you
a
in the
line.
shin.
I'm just saying, if it goes well on the first two and you wanna distribute it a little more, you don't want a huge one, you could have like another Nico's or something like
Have
that.
like a cat,
Just a smaller
cafe.
store, those are the ones
cat
that
wine store.
do well in
I could
Florida, you
have
know,
my
they
cats.
just.
Yeah, no,
Just
yeah,
something.
we can fight that down the road.
Yeah, down the road.
someone else's problem.
Yep.
Future council.
You good, Jay?
Good.
All right. Economic development rehab work still going on at Cobblestone, but things are going better. There's still some numbers there. They have discovered a little mold. We're kind of waiting on some
Mold
of
and
those.
rot.
Some of those numbers, yeah. Potential investments on the horizon. Jason and Matt had a meeting today with actually somebody who wanted to redevelop property in our only industrially zoned street. down off of Lenore Church. So, Jason, what do you think? Is it 50-50? What's the percentage of that investment?
She had, I don't know that they're gonna do a lot right away. It was a car manufacturer, like they build
that like-
the molds and create the little
Is that like
plastic
down where
pieces.
Garmin glass is?
Yeah,
Is that
down
what
there
you're
where,
talking about?
what is it, something steel. Something steel's right there, or it was there. and they're
Yeah,
gone.
Metro.
Metro
Metro
Steel.
Steel, yeah. So they were looking here and then like a few places in Gwinnett, I think, but they couldn't get through really to anybody in Gwinnett, so maybe we got to back up. It's really, I mean, it's hard to keep those spaces full down there. It's not prototypically good for industry. There's no real direct access, but
Yeah.
you know, if the price is right, I guess, come on in. I hope they do.
All right, we've got Briscoe Park. We will be back on November 14th for the award for the maintenance facility. Lisa has things have settled down a little bit with HR issues. You know, we had a negotiated settlement with one person, and we lost another one, and so she's building back up. She's had a couple of good interviews with folks. North and Wisteria, I think we aren't going to have a Larry Kaiser call this week, but Wednesday afternoon I'll send a information out to everybody. We have our, I guess, bi-weekly discussion with CHA. Final plans should be being developed right now. Right-of-way plans and acquisition will begin soon, so I'll send that out if you want to listen to Leah Castle and Larry Kaiser and everybody involved in North and Wisteria. It's moving good. We feel like we'll have a much more competitive grant application for the GTIB grant next spring than we had this spring. We were just in concept when we applied last year, and it was unlikely to get it. So that's kind of where we stand.
Did you get the meeting invite from Polo Vargas from John Oshoff's office for Wednesday at 2?
I'm not sure. I haven't even had time to look today. I'll check on that also.
Yeah, Wednesday at 2. Just see when your call is and
Okay.
make sure you can do that time.
All right.
Is that it for your project update?
That's it.
Ended kind of anticlimactic there.
Just kind of end it without a bang
Yeah.
or a single flash. All right, updates to the Unified Development Ordinance.
You have anything you want to talk about first? I've been talking with Chuck a while. I just think we need to do something to get more aggressive on protecting the taxpayers from stuff that goes in that the builder turns over, and then 10, 15 years later, the city's stuck with the maintenance. And I think, one of the problems we have is detention ponds. HOAs are supposed to take care of them. Well, we've got in the ordinance, according to Jason.
No, there is no standing ordinance for the creation of an HOA, only in the R.
Okay.
But by means of transferring responsibility, every subdivision we've done in the last 20 years has created the HOA so they don't.
Well, I think we need to make it mandatory for a number of reasons, and also we need to do something so that when the HOA doesn't do the maintenance that they should, that they know going in, the city's gonna do it and lien the property, or whatever we need to do to get these things working.
Can't we go in and do what needs to be done and then add to the tax bill?
Yeah.
Do a special assessment
Special
on the tax
assessment.
bills?
But I think we need to get that out front and say, here's what's gonna happen. You do it or we do it. If you do it, fine. If we do it, there's gonna be a special tax assessment.
That'd be a nuisance action.
Well, the county does, they have a joint, anything to do, they do a joint maintenance agreement that basically says you're responsible for it, but if you don't clean it up and there's a problem, then we're gonna do it and charge you back for it.
Well, that's all we need then.
Well, that's great for any new
New stuff,
development,
right.
but it doesn't help us at all with
Existing.
existing.
Yeah.
There's not a lot we can't impose backwards
Gotta start
unless it
somewhere.
became a nuisance,
Yeah.
you know, if
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was, you know, something like that.
Yeah,
But then, you know, then the problem is once we go in and, you know, that's why it
Mess
has to be
with that
done as a
pond.
nuisance.
Yeah.
If we
So
go
gotta
in and mess
verify
with it,
work and-
then we've got,
You own it.
we're gonna own it. So
Right.
we don't wanna do that. So, yeah, we could do it as a nuisance where they have to clean it up and then we could abate it, I guess, but it's still, it just, it makes me nervous a little bit.
Especially when you go back to taxes and special assessment, I think it can get real sticky with people. Well, I paid my HOA, well, I mean, it just gets real litigious.
So the question is though, so is there a minimum development size where, in a neighborhood in the city where, I'm trying to think of how when we would want to mandate you have to have, I mean, you're gonna say every subdivision we
Well,
do
we
requires
have
an
this-
HOA?
Yeah, I mean, outside of that if there's any common area, I mean, that's very.
Or if there's a freestanding detention pond.
Right,
then-
common.
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, then
You
you
got a
got,
detention
A
pond.
sidewalk, something.
But is there a minimum size?
I think it's 7 houses or.
That's what I was wondering, was
I'll
there a
look
minimum
at that
before you have to
later.
have a detention pond?
Yeah, it's actually, it's like anything more than, I think, 3 now.
3 houses?
oh,
Okay.
Because we tightened it up.
So the question is, is that something that you all want added when we do if we're gonna do these other changes, regarding the rent to own? It makes more sense to
Yeah,
do all
I
the,
think John's got a list.
to do all the changes at one time.
yeah, if, rather than requiring detention ponds on developments that are that small, can we look at requiring them to do,
Well, I think the state controls.
Yeah,
to
you
some-
can't,
we
you
I don't think
can't
we
say number of houses, whether they need a detention pond or not, because that
You
has
just
to
said we
do. No, HOA, common areas.
It's just, whenever there's, I think it's, I'll look, we
Okay.
changed it, we reduced it. Before you could have 7 lots that you could subdivide without common, like
Detention.
detention. Like, it's what happened over on, was it Rockdale Circle? Yeah, Rockdale Circle in the end, that was those 6 houses there. Those didn't have any, they just split the lot. It's, what is it called, a subdivision? It's
Well,
exemption
dividing.
plat. An
Yeah,
exemption
exemption
plat.
plat. You can
Exempt
do
from
7
improvements,
when
But I
that-
think ours is lower, I think it's like 4 or 5 now.
Okay, so we wanna say anything that requires common detention, we're gonna require an HOA.
Yeah, or private streets with sidewalks, anything they have to take care of as a group, whatever that may be, because that's where we got in trouble. Because if the group isn't behaving and grouping well together, then the, Tufts-Town Court over there, their ponds are bad, and it's not an active. We send them notices, they come back, there's nobody. There's an HOA, it's not an active HOA.
Well, I think that's the issue you get into, and I don't know how you control that, is if you have an HOA that the board doesn't ever meet and,
Or
then,
pay,
They've-
people don't pay.
or people haven't paid and no one's following up, then, I mean, you have an HOA, but it's not gonna do you any
It's not
good.
functioning.
well, and those are the ones that we need to start turning into nuisance actions.
Well, then who do we lien?
Yeah.
The general property?
Every
Then nobody's gonna
property
buy
owner.
that.
Yeah, nobody wants the property.
Well, I mean, if we did a nuisance abatement, typically we do the work and then, give somebody a bill for when the next time it changes property owners. In this case, a detention pond, it's not gonna change. So maybe something else is, tied to. Some things.
I
to
don't
work
see how
with.
you lien every property owner in a subdivision.
No, I don't know we can do much with existing stuff, but let's cut our losses now.
Well, yeah, we
so
just
they can
gotta
go
figure out a
forward.
good way you do the new stuff
Yeah.
for it. And I'm sure there's other, I mean, you could require a longer bond.
Right.
But, see, then the developers and they're out of there, they come back at 2 years, they retest the pond to make sure it's as-built, so everything's right, then you release it. If you waited till like 5 years, then they're counting on other people to maintain it after they're gone, so it's kind of just have to call some of our other cities and see how they handle it.
Okay. Now, the other thing that Dave asked us about were impact fees.
Yeah.
Jay is now our resident expert on impact fees.
Expert's a strong term.
So I asked Jay if he could just to give a 20,000 foot view of impact fees for y'all to think about, because there's a lot to think about. It's not simply should we charge them or not. There's a lot of background into it, so.
Yeah, they can be pretty burdensome to put in place, and Butch and Matthew might know more about impact fees than I have. From Butch. Impact fees?
Development fees.
But have you done impact fees?
What's that?
Have you done impact fees in your other cities?
No,
Okay.
never did. It wasn't a boon for construction, that's for
Right,
sure.
no, it's not.
It raises a lot of issues,
What about just, those are really hard to implement. I mean, our development permit fees are very low, probably the lowest in the county, I know. So you could make that reasonable, and there's a little more skin in the game to try to make sure you have something sitting there in case you need to use it.
Or even bond requirements.
Yeah, we bond them out for 2
Raise.
years on most stuff, and that's usually, you know, then they have to come, everything that's common gets bonded. The streets, unless they're private, anything public's bonded, the sidewalks, everything, but that's the whole thing again, 2 years, 5 years, then it's gotta, I know what you mean though, you just get
Yeah.
worried that, and I maybe just some extra permitting fees. We're like $150 an acre. I think it's been the same way for like 30 years. You're talking about a 5-acre commercial project, they're dishing out, you know, hardly anything to just get started. So, got some other fee amendments we could do too, that were way low.
Why don't you, check around with other cities and see where we're coming out and do we should do an update.
Impact fees, do they? They just charge you out the Gwinnett for water
Yeah, they
and
don't
sewer.
have
They just hit you for the cost of the utility.
Yeah.
We don't have.
I mean, we gotta weigh, we gotta balance it out between wanting good developers and not wanting to scare people away with good projects.
I don't think good developers are worried about the back end most of the time. But you have to protect yourself from everybody, because
Right.
sometimes you don't know.
Right.
Well, and
Sometimes
I
It's
think
too late.
as the price goes up, the quality of the developer, because the rinky-dink guys are gonna, oh, that's too much, and they'll go somewhere else.
It just depends. Everybody has their little
Yeah.
niche kind of project size. Some, the little guys don't do the big work, and the big guys don't do the little work.
Right.
It's just so many businesses. But
Impact fees work well in county governments.
right.
Where you have bigger developments that need water and sewer and other infrastructure. Usually, in more densely populated cities, it's just not a positive thing. But we can look at it.
I think there's other ways we can.
Yeah, and that may be it.
Protect
That's why I
us.
want to throw up for the discussion, because sometimes you say, oh, that's really great, we're gonna get all this money, and then you look at it and say,
It's not worth
yeah,
the
and then
cost.
here comes all the expense with it.
Right.
But I think we need to do something to protect the city from some of the stuff that goes on that's just cheap, and throw it in the ground, we'll be gone in 2 years, and who cares?
Yeah, the best way to do that is through the code. Building code, architectural code, because if you up the ante on the building type, typically
Yeah.
that library building over there's a 100-year building, I would guess, after all that iron and stuff, but there's a cost to that too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you're gonna look at
I got you.
what's what?
Yeah.
Okey doke. No executive session tonight? All right. All right, is there a motion to adjourn the work
Motion
session?
to adjourn.
There's a motion, is there a second? Gretchen, all in favor? 6-0, we're done.